He didn't propose with fancy candles or some big party. It was just a quiet evening at home. We had made spaghetti together and were watching an old movie we both loved. Somewhere between the laughter and the warmth of that night, he pulled out a small box from his pocket and looked at me with those familiar eyes. "Will you marry me?" he said softly. No speech, no build-up. Just him and those simple words. I cried instantly. Not because it was some grand gesture but because it felt real. Honest. Like it came straight from his heart. That moment stayed with me more than anything else ever could. From that night forward I truly believed he was the one. My person. The man I would grow old with. We had already been together for a few years by then and I thought I knew everything about him. His habits, his smile, his silent moods, his favorite songs. I had seen him through good and bad days. He had held me when I lost my grandmother and I had supported him when he got laid off during COVID. We had seen life in its raw form and still we stayed. That kind of bond felt unbreakable. As soon as I said yes, the planning began. He seemed just as excited as I was, at least in the beginning. We sat on the couch for hours looking at wedding venues online. We'd laugh over the prices, dream about which one we'd pick. We finally chose a charming little place by the lake. It wasn't too fancy but it was peaceful with trees and water all around. Felt like it matched our story, quiet but beautiful. Then came the guest list. We argued like any couple would over who to invite and who not to. But it was a good kind of stress, the kind that makes you feel alive and in love. I bought wedding magazines, made Pinterest boards, and bookmarked everything from floral arrangements to homemade centerpieces. We even talked about writing our own vows. I remember one night we stayed up past midnight, laughing and joking about how he'd cry first during the ceremony. He said, "You'll be the one bawling before I even walk in." I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. Those were the days when I believed we were building something real, something that would last forever. Our families were overjoyed. My mom cried when I showed her the ring. His dad hugged me and welcomed me officially into the family. It felt like everything was falling into place, like life was finally giving me my share of happiness. I was 32 and after years of waiting I was finally going to be someone's wife. That meant the world to me. I even left my job to focus fully on the wedding. I thought, this is our moment. Let me give it everything. I wanted to make our house a home, a place full of love and comfort. I never thought for a second that I'd regret that decision. At first I didn't think much of it. He just seemed tired. That's what I told myself. He's working hard, probably overwhelmed, I'd say when he skipped looking at wedding invitations with me. I'd spend hours choosing between ivory or pearl paper, lace trim or simple corners, and when I asked for his opinion he'd just glance up from his phone and mumble, "Whatever you like, babe." I'd smile and pretend it was fine, telling myself that not all men are into this kind of stuff. I didn't want to seem too needy. Then he started missing out on more than just invitations. Cake tastings, floral appointments, even simple dinner chats. He was always too busy or too tired. Every evening turned into the same thing. He'd walk in late, loosen his tie, drop his keys on the counter and collapse on the couch with a sigh. I'd ask how his day went and he'd reply with one word, "Exhausting." No questions for me. No interest in how my day had been. I tried to be patient. I kept reminding myself that wedding planning could be stressful for men too. He'd taken on extra hours at work and I respected that. We had bills and weddings aren't cheap. I told myself, this is just a phase. He's providing. He loves me. I wanted so badly to believe that the man I was marrying was still the same one who had proposed over spaghetti. I didn't want to see anything else. But something had changed in him. He didn't smile the same way anymore. He stopped calling me during the day like he used to. No more sweet "just thinking about you" texts. Just silence. And when I brought it up he'd shrug and say, "Babe, I've just been swamped. You know I love you." And I clung to that. I clung to every small reassurance like it was a lifeline. Then one night I saw him standing in the kitchen, completely lost in a text conversation. He didn't hear me walk in. His face was lit up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks, smiling, focused. My heart dropped a little. I casually asked, "Who's that?" Without missing a beat he turned and said, "Oh, just my cousin, Shay." I hadn't heard that name before. I tried to brush it off, even laughed and said, "Didn't know you had a cousin named Shay." He nodded, "Yeah, a distant one from my mom's side." I wanted to believe him. I needed to. The alternative felt too heavy to face. So I let it go. I told myself I was being paranoid, overthinking things. I even scolded myself thinking, "You're just tired. You're planning a wedding. Your nerves are fried." I didn't check his phone. I didn't question him again. Instead, I made tea and sat beside him, pretending everything was fine. But deep down, something had shifted in me too. A small voice inside me whispered that things didn't feel the same anymore. His touches felt colder, his kisses more like habits than affection. I stayed up later at night thinking about the way he used to look at me, how now his eyes barely met mine. Still, I kept moving forward, kept sending invites, kept choosing colors, kept folding napkins. Because I believed once we got through this stressful phase, things would go back to how they used to be. I didn't want to believe I was slowly losing the man I loved. 1 week before the wedding, everything felt like it was finally falling into place. My dress was ready after the final fitting, our parents had started arriving, and our tiny house was full of laughter, hugs, and the smell of fresh flowers. My best friend flew in from out of state and helped me go over the final checklist. Caterer, music, vows, guest seating. It was all set. I could almost picture myself walking down the aisle in that white lace dress, smiling through tears, holding his hand and saying, "I do," in front of everyone we loved. I was nervous, of course, but more than anything I was excited. This was the moment I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. The finish line was right there, just 7 days away. All the sleepless nights and planning were finally worth it. My heart felt full even with the little doubts I had been pushing aside. I told myself every couple has pre-wedding jitters. That's normal, right? But then just as quickly as the joy arrived, it started to shift. He began pulling away again, and this time it felt different. More intense. He barely spoke unless I asked him something. He started avoiding me during family dinners and stopped responding to little things like holding my hand or looking me in the eye. When I tried to kiss him, he'd turn his face slightly, pretending not to notice. I told myself he was just tired. Planning a wedding could take a toll on anyone. Maybe he was feeling overwhelmed with all the attention and expectations. But it wasn't just that. It was like he was shutting down. Like something inside him had already decided to step away. I couldn't take it anymore, so one evening after everyone had gone to bed, I sat beside him on the couch and asked softly, "What's wrong? You've been acting strange. Are you okay?" He didn't look at me. He just stared at the floor for a long time. The silence between us was so loud I could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Then he finally spoke. "I need space," he said, his voice low and empty. "I'm not sure if this is what I want anymore." I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. I couldn't even understand the words at first. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. "You're not sure? The wedding is in 7 days. He just shrugged, still not looking at me. "I thought I was ready, but I'm not. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't lie to myself anymore." My heart dropped. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My hands went cold. I had been preparing for this wedding for a year, for this future, this life with him. And just like that, with a few quiet words, it all began to unravel. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I couldn't cry yet. I was too stunned. I kept waiting for him to say it was a mistake, that he was just scared, that he didn't mean it. But he didn't. He stood up, walked to the door, and left me sitting there, alone. That moment, it shattered something in me. The world I had built, the love I had trusted, the future I had believed in. It all collapsed right in front of me. And the worst part was, I never saw it coming. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing while the world around me started to fall apart. My parents were still in their pajamas, pacing back and forth in the living room, asking questions I couldn't answer. What happened? Was there a fight? Is he coming back? I just shook my head. I didn't have any explanations, not for them, not even for myself. All I could say was, "He said he needs space." His family, on the other hand, went completely silent. Not a single call. Not a single message. No one reached out. The same people who had been texting me every day about wedding plans suddenly disappeared like they were never a part of it. I felt abandoned from every direction. I called him 3 times that day. The first time he didn't answer. The second time he declined the call. The third time he finally picked up. His voice was cold, distant, like a stranger. I asked him to come over to talk things through. I was desperate. "Please," I said through tears, "just tell me what's really going on." He stayed quiet for a few seconds before responding, "I just need time. Please don't pressure me." And then the line went dead. I sat there with my phone pressed to my chest, trying to stop myself from falling apart again. Every second felt like an hour. Every heartbeat felt like pain. I didn't know what to do, but the world didn't stop for my broken heart. The next day, the wedding venue called to confirm final details. The woman on the phone was cheerful, saying how excited they were to host our big day. I froze. My throat tightened, and for a moment I couldn't speak. Then, in the softest voice, I said, "There won't be a wedding. We're canceling." There was a pause on her end, and then she whispered, "I'm so sorry." I could feel the pity in her voice, and somehow that made it worse. From that moment on, it became real. I had to start calling vendors, canceling bookings, notifying the makeup artist, the florist, the bakery. Each phone call felt like I was losing another piece of the dream I had worked so hard to build. Some vendors were kind. Others asked about cancellation fees. One even said, "This happens more often than you'd think." I hung up before she could finish. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. My skin started to feel heavy, like it didn't belong to me anymore. The guest list started shrinking, not by my choice but because people had started hearing the news. Relatives began texting awkward, sympathetic messages. A few didn't text at all, just disappeared like it was too awkward to acknowledge. And then the gossip started. Someone told my aunt that he had left me for someone else. Another person claimed we were fighting for months. Lies, guesses, whispers. It was like my heartbreak had turned into public entertainment. The only person who stayed by my side every minute was my best friend. She held my hand, brought me tea, made me eat crackers when I hadn't touched food in 2 days. One night, as I cried into her shoulder, she said, "Maybe it's just cold feet. Some men panic before weddings. He might come around." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe that this wasn't the end. But deep down, I was starting to wonder if it had never even been real to him in the first place. A few days after everything had started falling apart, I was lying on the couch, still in my pajamas, surrounded by unopened envelopes and half-packed wedding favors. My eyes were swollen from crying, my heart too numb to feel anything new. I hadn't heard from him since that last call. It was like he had vanished from my life completely. And then, just when I thought the worst was over, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an old friend I hadn't spoken to in months. She had seen something. A photo. It was him, sitting at dinner in a fancy restaurant, with a woman. She wasn't just sitting across from him, she was leaning in close, smiling, holding his hand like she belonged there. My heart sank as I stared at the image. He was supposed to be grieving the loss of our wedding too. He was supposed to be thinking, reflecting, regretting. But instead he was out having a romantic dinner with someone else. I kept staring at that photo, hoping I was wrong. Maybe it was just a friend. Maybe I was misunderstanding the situation. But deep inside I knew. I had always known. That cousin he used to text late at night? The one he brushed off so casually when I asked about her? The one whose name he quickly deleted from his phone log? She wasn't family. I finally built the strength to confront him. I called him again, this time not begging, not crying, just needing answers. He picked up, and the moment he heard my voice, he sighed like he was already tired of me. I asked him directly, "Is it her? The girl in the photo? Is that the same person you used to text and lie about?" There was a pause. And then he said, "Yeah, it's her." My voice started to tremble. "So all this time, even during our engagement, you were seeing her?" He didn't deny it. Instead, he said something that will stay with me forever. I started feeling something for her. I didn't know how to say it to you. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me. You didn't want to hurt me? I felt like screaming. Then why did you propose to me? Why make me dream about a life you had no intention of living? His voice was calm. Too calm. "Because you're great. You are. But I think I settled too early. Everyone around me was getting married. You were stable, kind, and it made sense. But somewhere along the way I realized I wasn't ready." She made me feel alive again. That moment broke me in ways I can't describe. I had built my world around him, and now he was standing there saying I was a safe choice. Someone he never truly saw as a forever. I asked one last thing. "How long has this been going on?" He hesitated before answering. "A few months. Maybe longer." A few months. That meant birthdays, dinners, planning sessions, all while he was already emotionally gone. All while he was smiling in photos with me, knowing there was someone else. I hung up after that. I didn't say another word. What was left to say? I had begged for his time, cried for his love, and gave up pieces of myself just to keep him happy. But he had already made his choice. He made it long before he ever told me. That night, I sat in my room surrounded by the shattered remains of what was supposed to be my fairy tale. Photos, invitations, dreams, all of it suddenly meant nothing. The truth was out, and it was uglier than I could have ever imagined. The morning after I found out the truth, I did something I should have done long ago. I blocked him. On everything. His number, his social media, his email. I even deleted our old photos from my phone. It was painful, yes, but it was necessary. Every time I saw his face, it felt like someone was picking at a fresh wound. I needed peace, and I knew I wouldn't get it if I kept the door open even a little. His family started reaching out a few days later. First, his sister, she messaged saying, "He's confused, he's going through something." Then his mother called saying, "You two were so good together. Maybe he just needs time." But I was done listening to their excuses. I had spent too long bending myself just to make everyone else comfortable. Now it was time to focus on me. I didn't answer a single one of them. Not out of hate, but because silence felt like the strongest response I could give. I started therapy a week later. It was hard at first, sitting in that small room, opening up to a stranger about how I was made to feel like I was never enough. But slowly something started to shift inside me. I stopped blaming myself. I stopped carrying his guilt like it belonged to me. And for the first time in months, I started breathing without feeling like my chest was full of bricks. I also went back to work. I applied to jobs in a completely new city, one where no one knew me as the girl who got left at the altar. I got an offer at a publishing firm and packed my bags without telling anyone except my best friend. New city. New apartment. New life. I started writing again too, something I had given up while planning our future. I poured my pain, my confusion, my strength into pages. And one day I realized I was healing. A year later, I was standing in front of a small bookstore crowd holding a copy of my first published book. A memoir about love, betrayal, and finding yourself again. The place was packed and I was smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. I didn't need a man to complete my story. I was writing my own ending now. That same evening, while I was scrolling through messages of support and photos from the event, a familiar name popped up in my inbox. Him. The message was short, almost like he wasn't sure if he should be reaching out. It said, "I miss you. I made a mistake. I think about you all the time." For a split second I felt something. Not love, not pain, just disbelief. Because even now, after everything, he thought he could just pop back into my life like nothing happened. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a photo on my public page. Me holding my book, standing next to a banner that said, "From heartbreak to healing, smiling from ear to ear." No caption. No explanation. Just that image of a woman who had once been broken, but was now completely whole. That was my silent revenge. Not anger. Not payback. Just growth. Just proof that I didn't need him, I never did. If there's one thing I've learned from this entire journey, it's that you can love someone with every fiber of your being, with honesty, with loyalty, with all your heart, and still they can walk away. Still they can choose someone else. Still they can break you in ways you never thought possible. And that hurts. It hurts more than words can explain. But hear me when I say this. Losing them is not the end of your story. Sometimes, it's the beginning of finding out who you truly are. For a long time I thought love meant sacrificing. That if I gave more, if I stayed patient, if I understood his moods, forgave his distance, made excuses for his silence, somehow it would all work out. I ignored signs that should have made me stop and think. I convinced myself that coldness was just stress, that secrecy was just privacy, and that love was supposed to be a struggle. It's not. Real love doesn't leave you questioning your worth. Don't ignore the red flags just because you're wearing rose-colored glasses. Don't silence your own needs just to keep someone else comfortable. And above all, don't lose yourself trying to fit into someone else's future when they haven't even made space for you in it. You deserve to be chosen. Fully. Proudly. Every single day. I didn't get the wedding I planned. I didn't walk down the aisle in that beautiful dress we picked together. I didn't say, "I do," surrounded by flowers and candlelight. But you know what I did get? I got something far more valuable. I got peace. I got freedom. I got myself back. And now I wake up every morning without anxiety. I laugh without second-guessing. I love myself more than I ever thought I could. And that's the real happy ending. Not the one where someone chooses you, but the one where you choose yourself. So if you're in a place like I was, confused, heartbroken, abandoned, please know that this is not where your story ends. It's just a hard chapter. Keep going, because there's something beautiful waiting for you on the other side of goodbye.